Neje momoro ndiye kututa ifutudula isabartal walatin andu neje soma soto fana isabartal walatin
safarolem nitata niyaka nyama fala tawrawla ala kayam fawol biya ke dilli arjano ko
mojo ka wala ka manyol kunto ninga mojo ka manyol kunto manyol ka nganya wala mojo ni yake manyo kunto wala mun da kyosa not ni amo e manyo mojo la
manyo bito nda tara kolen kan to ngata birim mamolla fomu molla nga wala tara
mbadi jibe lalu mbadi madin kolo ana kam moy lalu alla min keta programme wala min kanale GRTS television oto sibito sibit la tele woro wularo alnal badi malen fatmata cha
Broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world, this is GRTS News. We begin with the headlines. His Excellency President Adama Barrow addresses a grand political rally organized by the communities of Sincho Alaji, Old Yundum and surrounding townships. Vice President Dr. Aissatou Toure virtually participates in the 13th ordinary session of the Assembly of African Heads of State and Governments discussing the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. The groundnut trading season in focus. GRTS meets groundnut farmers in the North Bank region to assess ongoing harvesting activities and farmer access to markets. And can consumer protection spur economic efficiency? We got answers from the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission as it marks World Competition Day, observed annually on December 5th. And in sports, Senegal's World Cup hero Papa Diouf honored with highest national award by President Macky Sall. And away from home, the United Nations warns 2021 is shaping up to be a year of humanitarian catastrophe. Elsewhere, as Ghanaians prepare to head to the polls next week, presidential candidates commit to uphold peace ahead of Monday's elections. Well, these and much more coming ahead in this edition of the News at 10. I am Fatoumata Cham and thank you for joining us. A warm welcome to the news once again, and it's great to have you here with us. We begin with the President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, who has addressed a grand political rally organized by the communities of Suncho Alaji, Old Yundum and satellite settlements in Sunchu. Now, scores of UDP and GDC supporters switched allegiance to President Barrow's National People's Party during the meeting. President Barrow is also scheduled to address another mass rally in the Combo South settlement of Brufut ahead of his dialogue with the People's Tour, which starts on Monday, December the 7th. Meanwhile, the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Touré, has participated in the 13th ordinary session of the Assembly of African Heads of State and Government virtually on Saturday. Vice President Touré joined African leaders to discuss the actualization of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement as part of unifying plans of action for Africa. GRTS's Ibrahim Jallo was at the State House and he prepared this report.
The virtual meeting led by the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the current chairperson of the African Union, centered on the finalization of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which is expected to start by January 2021. African leaders consider the trade agreement an important drive towards African integration and economic prosperity. The President of Niger, Mahamadou Issoufou, Paul Kagame of Rwanda, and Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana were among African leaders calling for increased commitment in the implementation of the trade agreement to boost African economy and create more jobs for its people.
This is a collective achievement which could not have happened without the strong support of the African heads of state and government who have remained steadfast throughout the journey. This level of commitment will continue to be necessary to sustain the agreement and make it successful.
In this regard, I assure this Assembly of Ghana's unwavering commitment and dedication to the agenda of continental integration.
The President of Ethiopia, Sahle Work Zewde, advocates for women empowerment in the implementation of the Continental Trade Deal.
I would like to highlight the importance of ensuring that the continental trade integration is inclusive of women and youth, young entrepreneurs. If the AfCFTA is to work for women, we must strengthen pathways for them to gain access to financing and markets, to enable them fully participate in trade liberalization.
On the home front, the Vice President of the Gambia, Dr. Aissatou Touré, says the country kept its commitment towards the realization of the African Free Trade Area, despite the impact of COVID-19.
We have kept our engagements and remain committed to effectively operationalize the African Continental Free Trade Area. The Gambia continues to be fully committed to the AfCFTA, to have and has put in place several measures in preparation for the effective implementation of the agreement in January 2021.
She informed African leaders that the Gambia government has established a national committee for the African Continental Free Trade Area and finalizes customs and trade regulatory policies set out for the trade deal.
The Gambia has prepared its tariff schedules through a consultative process with the private sector. The tariff schedules were submitted to ECOWAS, and we have participated in the negotiations thereof at the regional level during the consolidation process. On trade in service, the Gambia has also finalized development of its schedules of specific commitments, which have been submitted to ECOWAS Commission for consolidation and submission to AU. Through these regional consultations, both the tariff offers and schedules of specific commitments are being finalized.
The negotiations of the African Continental Trade Agreement began in 2016. It forms part of the Agenda 2063, which is a blueprint and master plan for transforming Africa into a global powerhouse. The meeting ended with a declaration for the African Continental Free Trade Area to start by 1st January 2021. Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
And over now to news thus coming in. The government, represented by the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure and the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, wish to inform the business community, Association of Clearing and Forwarding Agents and General Transport Union that the proposed delivery truck pool queuing system to be maintained outside of the Port of Banjul is now suspended until further notice. Therefore, the status quo in granting access to delivery trucks entering the port will be maintained until a comprehensive review is conducted. That is, of course, taking into account the views of all stakeholders with the objective of enhancing efficiency in this important segment. The said ministry solicits the understanding and cooperation of all parties, whilst every effort is being made to ensure efficient service delivery of port services. The release ends. And now, the harvest season is gathering pace in the Gambia as farmers descend on their farms to collect produce for processing ahead of the marketing activities. This year's unprecedented rains marked a productive cropping season, and farmers across the country are seeing super yields as they harvest crops, including groundnut, the country's flagship production and one of the most cultivated crops. Our farmer of Baji visited some groundnut farms in the North Bank region to assess harvest levels, which determine the season's market expectations. Let's take a listen.
Groundnut remains the flagship and most popular crop among farmers in the Gambia. The crop is especially popular in traditional farming communities like Badibu in the North Bank region, where farmers have been busy harvesting produce since September. With super outcomes from a good cropping season, the bulk of farm produce has matured and harvesting started in full swing. In Badibu Saba, farmers like Lanjante Drame, who has a groundnut farm of about 5 hectares, harvesting is a tedious and serious undertaking that involves a lot of work to get the right yield. Lacking basic machinery, most farmers in this area rely on animals for harvesting. This is followed by hours of toiling with their families gathering the harvested produce. How was the 2020 groundnut season for farmers in Badibu Saba as they get to the end of a complex year that brought a difficult pandemic?
The way we expect the season, it doesn't turn that way. It's not that the rain was not sufficient, but the crops have some fault due to lack of fertilizers. This farm is about 5 hectares. If you put less than 20 bags of fertilizer, it will be difficult for you to have what you wish.
Groundnut humps can be seen everywhere in these surroundings, while farmers get busy with harvesting and gathering. These 2 women farmers, Salinger and her sister in Badiburilwa, are part of a number of women farmers we met with during our field trip. The women expressed gratitude for the great outcomes the season produced as they set their sights on the venture, marketing.
Whatever we have here is in our own good. If I sell it, I can solve my issues and still have some for domestic consumption. But if we don't have that, it becomes difficult.
Njabakunda farmer Lamin Dafe is waiting to whip these big groundnut humps to separate the nuts from the plants. For the groundnut farmer who is a little ahead of most farmers in harvesting, the season has been exceptionally good.
The groundnut does not have any fault. It's fully matured as we wished. That way it weighed heavy when we are selling it. Fertilizers used to be our problem, but thank God it was easy.
Most of the farmers here are not so concerned about their groundnut produce, but the accessing of markets is a massive hitch that could trump and devalue their yield, as groundnut remains one of the crops whose price is still determined and fixed by the central government.
If government can help us increase the price, that will be good. Because if they don't increase, when the Senegalese come, the amount of groundnut Gambia will want, they will not have it. And that will bring difficulty for the country. If we are selling our groundnut to Senegalese, it means we are empowering their economy. Even hay, you will negotiate for its price, but it's the groundnut that is not respected, which the government should look into. They should discuss the price with farmers, but not to fix it on their own. We are powerless. We can't do anything just to comply and sell it and take care of our needs.
Lanjante Drame, who has been farming for over 26 years, called on the government to be more supportive to farmers, whose production significantly contributes to the Gambia's exports potential, helping to mobilize much needed income for the country.
I'm talking on behalf of all the farmers, for government to be supportive to the farmers as they are playing a crucial role in the development of the nation. Anything that is eaten by people is grown by farmers. Farmers should be respected the world over. Government should help the farmers for the development of the nation.
Reacting to farmers' concerns, agriculture officials said these issues have been critically looked into, and government is putting up mechanisms to address them.
If you also look at the current groundnut season that we are about to sell the groundnut, for every metric ton, government is subsidizing. Because if you want to leave the groundnut sales to the market price, it will be very, very low. So government is putting almost 5,000 on every ton, just to make sure that the groundnut price reach at the level where they are at $20,700 per metric ton.
There has been an increase in the initial market price from $20,700 to $23,000 per metric ton for groundnut. But whatever the case, farmers need great support to enjoy the outcome of their labors after months of hard work on their fields, where these groundnut humps still await whipping and winnowing before they can be fully ready for the markets. Farmer Abaji, GRTS News.
Now, boosting investment in ICT for increased economic efficiency, the Ministry of Information and Communication Infrastructure has drawn national partners in a day-long forum, including the National Assembly ICT Committee at a local hotel in Kololi. As Janke Ture tells us, the meeting is part of the ministry's advocacy program to promote investment in communications technology. This is her report.
Information and communication strategies plays a significant role in all aspects of modern society. With a population of more than 1 billion people, Africa represents a significant portion of the world population, and ICT is a vital tool to release the creative potential and knowledge embedded in her people. And as part of its ICT advocacy program, the Ministry of Information and Communication Infrastructure has engaged the National Assembly members in a day-long forum on ICT development in the country. The conclave has an objective to promote investment in the ICT sector and the utilization of ICTs for national development.
If you look at the National Development Plan, Critical Enabler 5 in particular, which is the sector goal, the government of the Gambia has taken this bold decision to make the Gambia a digital economy.
The forum is organized to raise awareness on the critical role of information and communication technologies and its role towards socio-economic development and poverty alleviation in the country.
The decision to organize this workshop is based on the recognition of the great role the National Assembly plays in steering the affairs of our dear country. In this regard, I strongly believe that further engaging you on the importance of ICTs would not only increase the prioritization of ICTs, but will also further promote the allocation of more government funds on ICT infrastructural development.
This is among the advocacy program organized by the Ministry of Information, meant to aggressively push for the recognition of ICTs as a genuine critical enabler and a game changer for national development. For low-income countries like the Gambia, Minister Silla said there should be more investment in ICT infrastructure development in the country.
To help change the narrative in our country and to aggressively push for the recognition it deserves, as well as investment and the utilization of ICTs in national development planning, my ministry formulated a comprehensive ICT advocacy program. One key activity is this very workshop organized for National Assembly members, which is organized mainly to raise awareness on the importance and untapped benefits of the ICT sector, and by extension, its role in the socio-economic development of our beloved nation, the Gambia.
Honorable Alajimbo is the Vice Chair of ICT Committee of the National Assembly. He delved on the significance of the engagement, saying ICT is one of the fundamental pillars for development, and such initiatives should be supported by all.
If you look at the way countries are moving in terms of economic development, ICT is really one of the fundamental pillars on which everything else revolves. So we really have to put our hands together and put our heads together to support such so that we can move to the next level.
It is expected that through this forum, participants will be aware of the role of ICTs, shared challenges, and map out way forward for the enhancement of national ICT policy in the country. Janket Ture, reporting for GRTS News.
Now, the official handing over of the refurbished Ndemban Clinic to the Ministry of Health took place on Saturday at the clinic grounds in Bakau, a great completion after months of work by the Gambia's giant housing estate, TAF Africa Global. The colorful ceremony was graced by senior officials from the Health Ministry and partners, amongst other dignitaries. Sena Bujan was there and she filed in this report.
This newly refurbished center, completed within 3 months, couldn't have happened without the strong partnership and show of solidarity from TAF Africa Global and development partners such as UNOPS, UNDP and the World Bank. Ndemban Clinic will now strengthen the health sector towards the fight against COVID-19, said Permanent Secretary 1, Mamadou Lamin Jaite at the Health Ministry. The World Bank resident representative for Iborofis said they remain committed to address and strengthen the Gambia's COVID-19 response.
COVID emerged, we had to rally. We had to rally as an institution to mobilize resources to support the government in its efforts to address the COVID pandemic, and I'm pleased to say that our efforts have been successful so far. I'm sure many of you in the ministry know my colleague, Dr. Sam Mills, who has been working very closely with the Ministry of Health on the COVID-19 response, and I'm happy to see one of the main results behind us here today.
WHO country representative Desta Tarune said that this clinic being refurbished by TAF Africa Global and partners will go a long way in helping the health sector and could be used as a standard facility towards the provision of primary healthcare services.
And although we are now focused on COVID-19, this facility will remain to serve the Gambians for the future, for a long time to come.
This pandemic has shown us the moment of solidarity, said UNDP's top officer, Asiata Day.
The fact that a son of the Gambia, which is Mustafa Njai, started by himself investing and taking the first building completely renovated with his own financial resources, to the extent to which the Gambians are committed to fight this disease together.
The General Manager of TAF Africa Global, Bajan Njai, explained how the partnership evolved, whilst Professor Nyan of the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital highlighted the collaboration leading to the new facelift given to Ndemban Clinic.
I would like to start by saying that TAF Africa Global, under the TAF Africa Foundation, financed and renovated the first phase of this establishment in April, and it was completed in May. The second phase, which was in partnership with the UNDP, we commenced in August and then completed in October. We used up to 150 workers to complete this facility, and mostly Gambians. We're very proud to be part of this great initiative.
Indeed, the leadership of the COVID-19 response team, the clinical side, has always been led in terms of the response by the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. As you probably know, the sanatorium has always been also part of our responsibility. And through the involvement and leadership of Dr. Charles Roberts, Deputy CMD, and head of the treatment center here, Dr. Abubakar Jang, they have actually coordinated all the clinical response on behalf of everybody in this country. So it is in that spirit that I believe the ministry asked us at the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital to also, using the same mechanisms, take responsibility of the day-to-day running and activities of this new establishment here.
Receiving the keys of newly refurbished clinic, the Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmadulamin Samate, thanked partners of their support since the first case of COVID-19 was recorded in the Gambia in mid-March.
We all started together collectively, and then we learned from what is happening from other countries. We learned from our mistakes. We strengthened the positive aspects that we have encountered. But COVID-19 is been a big challenge. But with the challenge came opportunities. And this is one of the opportunities to strengthen the health system. To strengthen the health system to deal with COVID-19 and the aftermath of COVID-19.
Zainabu Jain for GRTS News.
Now, every year December 5th is celebrated globally as World Competition Day to ensure consumer benefit and increased access to efficient services. Now, promoting the benefits of an effectively implemented competition regime, the day also highlights the importance of competition issues in our markets and their connection to consumer and business welfare. In the Gambia, a Competition and Consumer Protection Commission is tasked with regulating private and public sector competition to expand economic efficiency, but how is this influencing growth in the country? Earlier during the news, we spoke to the Executive Secretary of the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, Mr. Momodu Sise, on the significance of the day's commemoration. Let's take a listen to this excerpt.
Mr. Sise, good evening and welcome to Newsfile.
Thank you.
Now, to set the tone for our conversation this evening, talk to us about the mandate and vision of the Commission.
Thank you. The GCCPC, Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, has 3 mandates. We have a competition mandate, a consumer protection mandate, and what we call an essential commodities mandate.
Okay.
For competition, we enforce and promote competition in all sectors of the economy.
Okay.
For consumer protection, we protect consumers from unfair and misleading market conduct. And for the Essential Commodities Act, we ensure the availability and affordability of essential commodities in the Gambia. That's, in a nutshell, is what we are about.
All right, now let's look at the day in itself. I mean, how important is this day and how will it be observed in this country?
Yes, like you rightly said, December 5th is World Competition Day because it was on December 5th, 1980, that the UN approved a set of rules for the control of restrictive business practices, which marks a milestone in competition enforcement. That's why December 5th is chosen as a day.
Okay.
Now, for this year, the theme is competition policy and access to healthcare.
Okay.
So what we've done is, healthcare is broad. It covers a whole lot of things. You have the doctors, the nurses, even the patients are part of the equation.
Okay.
But we narrowed it down to access to
healthcare.
Quality medicines.
Okay.
So that's why we partnered with the MCA, the Medical Medicine Control Agency,
okay,
the Pharmacy Council of the Gambia, and the NPS. NPS is the National Pharmaceutical Services of Gambia.
Okay.
So what we did yesterday is we had a Q&A with them, a press conference with the media, highlighting the gains that we've made in this area and the plans that we have moving forward from both the Competition Commission point of view, MCA, and NPS, and the Pharmacy Council.
Interesting.
Now, like you mentioned, I mean, this year's event is anchored on the theme competition policy and access to healthcare, which is actually, I mean, quite apt considering the fact that we're in the wake of a global pandemic as huge as COVID-19. Now, how will healthy competition in the pharmacy industry actually support access to effective healthcare service delivery in the Gambia?
Very, very good question. You see, without competition in the pharmaceutical services, you're going to have what we call monopolies. You're going to have barriers to entries, and what the resultant effect will be high prices for consumers. Now, reverse that, and you have a healthy competitive market. You're going to have lower prices. Consumers will have more choice. Business would be more innovative. It will essentially enhance consumer welfare. What we've done at the GCC, I mean, access to healthcare services is a priority for us under the Consumer Protection Department. So what we've done is we've undertaken a market study on that. Okay. It will be due. It's due out in March 15. But we're looking at it from different angles. From a competition angle, to make sure that there are no barriers to entries to the market, and to make sure that there are no monopolies abusing their position. B, and from a consumer protection angle, we look at it to make sure that the rights of consumers as patients are protected in the health delivery service.
Mr. Amadou Cisse, Executive Secretary of the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, thank you very much for being on the news file this evening.
Most welcome.
Now, members of the OIC Local Organizing Committee and key partners have embarked on a day-long tour to project sites identified for the construction of new roads ahead of the OIC Summit in 2022. Farmer Abaji was with the tour party, and he tells us more in this report.
As the summit is drawing closer, preparations are advancing as the country is set to host one of the biggest global summits. Members of the OIC Local Organizing Committee, together with NRA officials and the international consultants, visited proposed sites for the construction of roads ahead of the summit in 2022. The team began the inspection visit with a tour of the 6.7-kilometer road that connects Sukuta and Burfoot Ghana town, before a similar tour of the 8-kilometer Burfoot Bijilo road that connects to Kolole Tavan. Other places visited included Tuba Sanchaba Kersering Road, Sukuta Laterkunda Road, among others. The consultant explained the technicalities involved as the construction is set to start in March 2021.
We are right now performing the preliminary design for the project, and it is expected to be completed by next week. By 10th December it shall be submitted to the client for final approval. All site survey works are completed. Geotechnical samples gathered from the site and laboratory analysis were done and completed. We have the geotechnical report ready. Hydrological study is also completed. We are now compiling all the ground informations to perform the design.
Roads are built for vehicles, so you don't want to spend a lot of money on a road that is never going to be used by vehicles, so that's going to be a waste. So whatever we do in terms of analysis, first and foremost we look at the traffic, and we were able to do some traffic sensors on some of these roads, and that is what we use our basis for the selection of the roads.
Binta Jammeh Sidibe, the chairperson of the OIC Organizing Committee, said as the LOC, they shouldn't be sitting at one place without visiting the sites to obtain first-hand accounts.
So it was the decision taken by the local organizing committee in consultation with the OIC Secretariat to come out and see for ourselves. And they say seeing is believing, so that we see the progress of the roads. And today we have the consultants here. Some of us never saw the consultants, so we have a chance to talk to them. We have the National Roads Authority, so that we can really either we push forward and work with the Secretariat to tell them, okay, this is what is lacking, and we have to push.
The total intersection of the proposed roads to be constructed will be 50 kilometers. But what are the possibilities of meeting the deadline ahead of the summit?
Appreciative of what has been done, and you also had the consultants saying that by next week on the 9th of December, we would have most of the preliminary design done, and by the end of this month we would have had all the pre-tender and the tender documents. So hopefully the roads will be tendered by the end of December. So which is still within our time range as far as plans are concerned. So yeah, we are quite satisfied.
Road infrastructure is among the huge windfall the Gambia is set to benefit from the OIC summit. When the construction of these roads are completed, the daily traffic dilemma can be a thing of the past, especially in urban areas. Farmer Abaji, GRTS News.
Now, the International Trade Center and partners recently donated 2 tricycles to the communities of Sambofula and Mandinka in the Central River region. The initiative is part of a peace-building project funded by the UNFPA, the World Food Programme and the government of the Gambia. GRTS's regional correspondent in the CRR is Momodu Lamin Sane, and he now reports.
The communities of Sambofula and Mandinka have received tricycles from the Peace Building Fund project being jointly implemented by the International Trade Center, World Food Programme and UNFPA in partnership with the Gambia government. The focus here is anchored on strengthening community coping mechanisms to mitigate risks of conflict and reduce climate-related tensions in the Gambia. The tricycles are special support for the 2 communities located several kilometers away from the main highway comes at a crucial period. This is very important for the people of Sambang because it is going to mitigate the constraints of mobility, especially during emergency situations, where we need to transport our people to hospitals or marketplaces. Donor officials say this is meant to facilitate mobility for communities, particularly women farmers who find it difficult to transport their products to the main markets.
We aim to build bridges and work with communities to strengthen the capacity and skills of youth and women that in communities that are impacted by climate change. We want to build a more sustainable and harmonious future for women and for youth. And when visiting these communities, we are aware of the challenges that the communities face as a result of COVID-19, but also the remoteness of these communities. As a result of these consultations with these communities, we've decided to procure 2 tricycles to enhance market linkages, to help meet these challenges of transportation of agricultural goods for both of the communities.
Part of the objectives of the intervention is to promote peace among these 2 communities that have been greatly affected by dispute over land.
The difference in humanity has to occur, but resolving the difference is what matters. Now, the problem has been land, and I think the land is still there. Each one of these people will go and leave the same land existing. So killing each other over that land can be important, but it's very insignificant for it to happen. I want to challenge them by these moves. There are different institutions, different organizations, different individuals approaching them to make sure they have peace reign in that area. And definitely speaking, I think it's a high time that peace reigns among these families and the same people.
Handing over the tricycles to beneficiaries, project officials pledged to bring more interventions to promote peace in rural communities. Modu Lamin Sane reporting for GRTS News from the Central River region.
Now, government officials in the Upper River region, led by the governor of the region, Honorable Sambaba, and other heads of departments have conducted a walk for health exercise from the regional capital Basse to Sabi. The exercise, as we hear in this report by our correspondent in the area, Seydou Kamara, is meant to foster unity among the officials and also promote a healthy lifestyle.
It was a morning meant to be spent at home relaxing, but these civil servants and security personnel in Basse, in the Upper River region, opted to put on their sporting gears and hit the road by walking 10 kilometers. This is the first edition of a Walk for Health initiative led by the governor of URL Sambaba, security chiefs, and department heads in the region. The objective of this Walk for Health is to promote the culture of exercising among government workers in the area and bring them together to interact and discuss important issues of development. The participants walked from Basse to Sabi and back again, covering a distance of about 10 kilometers. The procession was led by personnel of the 3rd Infantry Battalion from Basse Military Camp, which was fun-filled throughout. Various department heads who took part in the event said such activities are important, which creates a rare opportunity for staff of different departments to come together and network.
We all know that health is very, very important and health is very paramount. We are here today doing work for health. It's paramount in the sense that you are trying to observe your own health. You are trying to promote your own health. This is why we are here. The governor initiated it, and we almost all institutions in the URL join him. When we work for some time, then we can donate blood to say blood bank, so that we can also help the health facility too.
This exercise is very important because it will make us to come together as all the stakeholders within URL. First and foremost, I would like to thank the governor and the entire team of URL making this thing possible, because we cannot achieve anything when we do not unite, and unity is strength. And we are interacting together. Some of the people, we know them today because of this exercise. So we will thank the government of the Gambia and all the relevant stakeholders giving us the opportunity to unite and then work together in order for us to achieve all our endeavors and make Gambia proud.
The senior administrator at the Regional Health Directorate, Majula Kuyate, stressed the health benefits of exercising and they commended organizers.
Exercise, one thing, will help to reduce excess fats that people build in their body. And it's also a preventive activity for most non-communicable diseases, which are non-curable. Because if you have those ones, you have to live with it for the rest of your life. So it's also very important in the prevention of non-communicable disease.
Significance, number one, I think, is the unity that we are demonstrating to the rest of the country. Right now, you cannot know who is the soldier, who is the police officer, who is, we are all together. This is the URR. Yes, nothing can break our unity. Yes, we are always together. We do everything together. And I think it is important for all the other regions to emulate what we are doing today.
We are motivated by him. This is why it is good to have a youthful leader who has the interest of the people and the unit that is working towards uniting everybody. So in this region, so that's why we are all here, and we are very much happy to be here.
Governor Sambaba, who is the brain behind the initiative, shared his impression on the successful conduct of the first edition.
Something that is important that we also have to bring it on board in order to sometimes remove our stresses that we normally receive in our offices. Because sometimes you are in your office from 7 o'clock up to 8 o'clock in the evening. After going home, you don't even have regular exercise. And as a result, it created a lot of even ailments in the civils. If you look at some of the ailments that are, that the civil service or civil servants have, is as a result of lack of exercise. So therefore, having this once in a while was something that definitely I thought of wise, and I shared the idea with the service chief and the TAC, and everybody accepted it. And today, on a Saturday, we just decided to walk from Basse to what we call Sabi.
Governor Ba commended all those who participated in the exercise, which is intended to nurture good working relationship among the various departments, as well as help the workforce to stay fit and healthy. Now that the first edition was well conducted, the organizers are calling on all stakeholders to take part in the subsequent events, as they intend to make it a continuous thing. This is the Work for Health, led by the governor of the region, Sambaba. It's a well successful Work for Health from Basse to Sabi. All this exercise is geared toward bringing unity among the people. Sedu Kamara, reporting for GRTS News File from Basse, Upper River region.
And that report by our Seydou Camara takes us to the end of this edition of the News at 10. But before we go, we'll take a quick look at our top stories this hour. His Excellency President Adama Barrow addresses a grand rally organized by the communities of Sincho Alaji, Old Yundum and surrounding townships. The Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, has virtually participated in the 13th ordinary session of the Assembly of African Heads of State and Governments, which discussed the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. The groundnut marketing season in focus, GRTS visited groundnut farmers in the North Bank region to assess ongoing harvesting activities and farmer access to markets. And can consumer protection spur economic efficiency? We got answers from the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission as it marks World Competition Day observed annually on December 5th. In sports, World Cup superhero Pape Diop has been awarded the highest honor by Senegalese President Macky Sall. And away from home, the United Nations warns 2021 is shaping up to be a year of humanitarian catastrophes. Elsewhere, as Ghanaians prepare to head to the polls next week, presidential candidates have committed to upholding peace ahead of Monday's elections. Well, that was all in this edition of the News at 10. Thanks for the pleasure of your company and enjoy the rest of our very interesting programs.
Come visit the Gambia, the smiling coast of Africa.